healthcare system is broken, but it doesn't have to be. This is Revenue Cycle Optimized by Infinx Healthcare. We discuss the latest challenges in the revenue cycle space and provide actionable tips on how to overcome them at your organization.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Stuart Newsom, your host, and just want to thank everyone for taking the time out today to join us. We got a really great topic, and that topic is we're really going to be discussing what AI actually delivers without the hype. We've all heard the hype, so we're going to get to the bottom of it today. And joining me is going to be Natalia Arzeno-Gonzalez as our chief data scientist here at Infinx. It's always exciting to get her some time with her busy schedule. So we're always very fortunate to have her with us to give us some insights because she's kind of boots on the ground into the development of a lot of the platforms that we have here at Infinix. So Natalia, it was great to have you back on office hours. How are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Awesome.
Excited to talk about this.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, I am too. It's always great to have you join us as a guest. So eager to get into it. And so I'm just going to give a brief overview of kind of what we're going to talk about, kind of give it a little more context to what this is all about. All too often we hear the term artificial intelligence or even agents, a lot of buzzwords going around, and it can be a bit ambiguous and also misinterpreted. What are the expectations that we're trying to accomplish? What are the results we want to look at? And it's been around long enough. I think a lot of people have been burned already. They've maybe didn't get the outcome that they were anticipating, if they got to an outcome at all. So today we're going to talk about what AI realistically delivers, particularly in revenue cycle management, where expectations often drift, and what meaningful progress actually looks like when AI is applied in real healthcare environments. So with that, Natalia, you ready to get started?
Very ready.
Awesome. So the first question, I have for you is, when healthcare leaders talk about AI and revenue cycle management today, where do you see the biggest gap between what they expect AI to deliver and what it realistically delivers in practice?
Yeah, that's a great way to start. I think probably the biggest gap is expecting any sort of AI solution to behave like a human expert across the entire revenue cycle from day one. Now, what we really have are models, and they can improve specific decisions, they can improve the workflow, they can do a lot that's very powerful, but everyone needs to keep in mind that AI is math, it's not magic. So say we take a common example like denial prevention or trying to predict whether there will be a denial. Now, AI might be expected to flag a claim, say, okay, it's going to be denied for this reason, and these are all the steps that you need to do, or actually just take all the steps, fix it, file an appeal, do everything, just know what's in the payer's mind, take action, perfect, okay, problem solved. But what the model will actually be doing in the background is learning from all of the historical data that it's seen during its training. So it's learning patterns. And instead of knowing what the solution is right off, it's think like the AI, the model thinking based on what I've seen before, this looks like it has some risk of being denied. And then perhaps depending on what the objective of that AI tool is, and maybe do something beyond that, try to explain why. So in order to do that, you need this AI tool needs to have seen all the data that it would need to make that decision as well. But that's not reality. So we don't really have all the revenue cycle data in one nice, clean data set all sitting in one place. You might need inputs that are maybe in the EHR or in the billing system, in documents. And sometimes when you're making that kind of decision, you need to know what the specific payer policy is, which might not even be available to us. So if the model can't be seeing these inputs, then it won't be able to learn that. So even though it's making a good prediction, again, it's like just looking at patterns in the historical data in order to make that prediction. And if it's not integrated into your workflow, then it's just an alert. And people are very good at ignoring alerts. Yeah, and if we dig into data itself, like if you think like denials data, then those outcomes are often delayed right? Payers maybe don't act the same way every time. So it's harder to learn what it should do. It's not that AI, these tools are impossible. You just have to know what you're doing. You have to design a system for learning. You have to feed it the right data, and then you can try to find whether you can achieve your end goal. You can't just grab a model that someone else has developed for a totally different use case, but it's like, hey, this is an awesome model, and think that it's just going to be plug and play. That doesn't work. So kind of think like there's where sometimes the gap is. Perhaps the marketing is just really, really good, but the product doesn't really do what you need it to do for yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned, not what the marketing can do, because we see that everywhere. I mean, anybody that's ever gone to a trade show or gone to a website, it seems just in the last 5+ years, it's been AI everywhere. Everyone's just slapped AI in front of their labels. They didn't really change their solution. They just put AI somewhere in the title of that solution, kind of changed
Yep.
the name a little bit. And it's nothing new. It's been happening, for a couple of decades. I can remember when the .com craze came around and everyone was, .com, where you just had to add that. And it was kind of, we're progressive, right? We're the here and now. We're not old fashioned. And so framing
Mhm.
that with the next question is, AI is often used as a broad label, like that.
Mhm.
So from your perspective, where does confusion between AI, machine learning, automation, large language models, most often distort those expectations around outcomes? I would imagine it's some confusion on people probably don't know exactly what those terms mean. They may take a little bit of information and then think they're experts, right? But they're really not. They really just have enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. And I think it's just the way that people use the words, and that has been evolving over time, especially in the last couple of years. So when people often say the term AI and they have one very specific thing in mind, but that one specific thing varies from person to person. So it's better to think about AI as a lot of different capabilities that could be bundled together. So there's machine learning, which you mentioned, right? So this is learning from the data. It's math. So you might be looking at machine learning algorithms that are trying to learn structure, trying to learn patterns in the data. Or perhaps if you do have a labeled data set, meaning that you know what the outcome of a data was, say like a prediction problem, then these machine learning models will learn from historical outcomes and the data to make predictions. But for those, I mean, these are models that are trying to predict a likelihood or a score. It doesn't mean that that is exactly what's going to happen, right? It's a prediction. It has some probability to it. I also mentioned automation. So this is just taking an action. So what step would a human do, and can a computer take that step? Meaning like clicking buttons or integrating with systems. You can have traditional RPA, robotic process automation, which is following certain rules, or you can have smart automation, let's say smart. So it adds some sort of decision. It can handle variation, it has fallbacks. It can be very powerful, especially now with all these large language models, the LLMs, which have become so popular and so prevalent in our everyday life now. But large language models are machine learning. They're a type of algorithm that's trained on labeled data. It's just it's not predicting a number. It's trying to predict what word should come next, given all of the words that have come previously and everything that the model has been pre-trained on. And as the name says, they're large, so these have seen tons of data, more than most machine learning models will see when they're trained. But I think that AI has become kind of synonymous with something that uses LLMs for many people.
Mhm.
But we have to keep in mind like LLMs are good at text. They're good at reading, writing, summarizing, extracting. And that's actually really powerful in healthcare because so much data is just text, but we need to watch out for certain things. So LLMs are very confident. And I think some people will see that they can chat and you can set up some sort of chat to be very, let's say, like it's just trying to very complimentary. It's just telling
Yes.
you, oh yeah, that's a great question. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. But it's
Yeah.
really because that's what people like to hear,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. It can also be
Uh,
biased as well, right? There's some
oh
bias.
yes, definitely something to look out for. And you mentioned agents earlier. When people think of AI agents, and even the word agent, AI agent has changed in definition so much since it started being used. Papers are published where you're like agents using agents instead of an agent being an entire system that does one thing. Like it just these meanings keep evolving. But the main thing I think is like AI is just a series of tools. And oftentimes it's when you have an AI product, it's using a hybrid approach. And that's what's going to deliver the most value. So it's looking at models, at automation, possibly LLMs, and each part of the system does what it's good at, and then hands off to the next component. And ideally, then you get to solve whatever problem you're looking at.
Awesome, awesome. So, and you mentioned earlier, AI is not plug and play solution. I think
Mhm.
we live in such an app world, right? It's
Yeah.
like an app you download to your phone, and they think, oh, this is going to do everything that this app needs to do, but not so much with AI. Even though those apps may use AI. So, what conditions need to be in place for AI to actually deliver meaningful results, especially in revenue cycle operations, which is so complex and so
Hmm.
fragmented, as I think you alluded to earlier.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So there are definitely a few components in order to get to that goal of meaningful results. And starting off is just understanding what is it that you want this AI to do. So you really need to clearly define what provides value to the user. So I think oftentimes you might see that when you have a data science model being built, some people will get hung up on accuracy. I want the most accurate solution. Now, if I'm trying to predict whether a very specific denial code happens, and perhaps that denial code exists maybe 0.5% of the time, I can build you a model in seconds that is 99.5% accurate by just telling you no denial every single time. Now, for measuring accuracy, awesome. But that is a garbage model, right? It's zero value to the provider, to the end user. So defining that objective, what does it actually mean to to provide value for your workflow? That is probably one of the most important things that you should consider. What is it that your KPIs are going to be? What is it that you're trying to predict? What are you trying to improve? And what action can you take because of it? So clearly defined objectives, definitely key. And then we've talked about data somewhat. Having the right data, that's also key because if you're going to train a model, I mean, not plug and play, because you also don't know what other data those plug and play models would have been trained on, right? But if you are trying to think of, okay, what is it that I want to do? I need to provide the model the right data to achieve that goal. And healthcare data isn't necessarily collected in order to be building models, right? You collect healthcare data to deliver care and then to bill for that care. So you have the fragmented data, but even you might not be collecting the right kinds of data, but that's also something you can do, you can build into your solution so you can improve your models over time. But are you giving the system the right data it needs to make a prediction, right? And so once you have the objective, you have the data, can you create a workflow? Can you create a path that will have that will take that output and actually create some value, right? So it could be integration, it could be a design process so that that model output can be acted on without additional work. You don't just want to have numbers in a dashboard. Maybe you do, but most of the time that's not what you want to do. You want something more actionable. And so considering that workflow is also a big piece. And I would say that the last thing that would really just make this all better is your data is going to change over time, peer behavior is going to change over time. The model won't be able to adapt if you're not providing feedback to that model. So building a feedback loop into your model, be it from taking the outcomes could come from the data itself farther downstream, or you have a human that's making some corrections, doing some auditing. That's also a very important part because otherwise you'll have drift and their model will stop working. And then again, it's
Mm-hmm.
of no value to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think you mentioned dashboards. It was funny, it was, JD was Tannen, who's our CEO, for those who don't know. But he did an office hours earlier a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned death by dashboards. And I thought that
Okay.
was such a perfect analogy, you know.
Yeah.
And his point was you can build all the dashboards in the world, but if you're not doing anything with the data, and if that data is not meaningful, to your point, bringing value to what you want to see, then why have the dashboard? Your dashboards can be very simple. They don't have to be complicated. But I think
Mhm.
sometimes we get caught up and we want to see everything, which is,
Mhm.
yeah, there's value in that, but define everything, right? To your point. So make sure that that's put in place. So, which kind of leads to the next question, from what you've seen, what types of outcomes tend to show up first when AI is applied effectively, in the revenue cycle?
Yeah. So obviously it depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve, but if you think of just day-to-day work related to the entire cycle, from you start off with like patient scheduling and everything through any sort of claims, payments, denial resolution, and all of that. So a lot of the day-to-day work might be repetitive. So are you running status checks? Are you updating information? Are you following up on anything? Are you entering like an order to get a patient scheduled? Are you pulling information from different systems? So having AI or automation work on some of those tasks, that can be a very quick win. So you can reduce the like repetitive, like say simple administrative work. So and it's not just clicking, right? But if you have documents that need to be read and that they can be understood by the system, then meaning the AI system, then that can be taken care of too, right? So you can classify what kind of document it is, extract key information, enter it into like your scheduling system. And that just helps you move faster, right? So you can schedule patients more quickly in the front end of things. The other thing you can think of, aside from removing repetitive tasks or speeding those up, is you can have better workflow orchestration. So you might be looking at working on hundreds, thousands of items a day, or whatever it is that your task is. You might have some sort of system, first in, first out, high dollar, maybe some sort of severity measure that or risk that will cue you into what to work in first. But you can also use AI along with your practices and results to really route and prioritize like what really matters. So is it what's time sensitive, what has financial risk, what needs a human? You can use AI to do that. Right? You can say like, okay, these can be automated with high confidence. These other things need to be looked at by a person that
Mhm.
has more experience and skill, right? And they can also help you see patterns. So, and then this goes back to more like traditional machine learning potentially. But if you're looking at data, anecdotal patterns might be different from data-driven patterns. And so a computer can process a lot more than a human brain can. And even though I think patterns that people observe, those are definitely very important. And whenever we're building a model, we do try to get with domain experts to learn what's important in the field because you just know you have instinct, right? AI doesn't have instinct. It's not a person. But there might be other hidden patterns that the computer can surface. And that can also be very valuable. And then downstream, after some time, then you can say like, okay, now we're getting quicker payments. We've resolved things that were issues before. We're more efficient. And that can also just translate into quicker payments, less rework and such. So yes, there's a lot that you can see coming up. Say like the payments will be the downstream, but earlier on, you can reduce that repetitive work, improve orchestration, just get more visibility into your data and then you can decide what actions to take to just improve your process overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know payers are using AI because they're
Hmm.
looking at patterns, they're looking at clusters, to your point about recognizing patterns
Yeah.
and how important that is. That's the tactic they're using to go after things like improper payments. The recoupment letters are escalating. We talk to prospects and clients all the time, and we're even able to help people with the recoupment process but it comes down to the data. We're looking at the same patterns, and how can we identify,
Mhm.
mitigate the risk, using the tactics that the payers are using, and load them in our models and say, okay, here's where your risk is. This is, if we were to evaluate you the way a payer is, this is what you need to sharpen up on. So that's just very
Mhm.
powerful, which is something that I don't think anybody's ever done before, at least from an AI perspective. So it's very, very exciting stuff. Now, for leaders evaluating AI solutions today, what questions should they be asking to determine whether those solutions are likely to deliver real progress rather than just
Mhm.
promises that seem to be empty?
Yeah. And the empty promises comes to, okay, we have a really awesome demo, but actually this product works just for situations that are very similar to our demo, right? So we want to you want to avoid that for your business.
Mhm.
So I would say probably want to ask where the product has been proven. So what context? Is it limited to certain specialties, a certain payer mix, procedures? Does it only work for certain billing systems? And so really understand the limitations in what has been previously proven or at least tested, right? So you don't get caught with a product that's designed for one specialty, but then you're trying it out on a completely different one, or a product that claims to be general but doesn't understand the nuances of a certain specialty.
Mhm.
You also want to understand, and it goes to like the objective, but what changes on your side if the product's working, right? So are you getting certain steps completed more quickly? Are you having certain error rates drop? Are you supposed to get a reduction in anything that's reworked? Or are your claims or your billing, your charts, whatever it is, are they going to be prioritized differently for certain tasks? So knowing what it is that's going to change. So, and that's again like the goal. What is it that we should be measuring? And then also you want to understand, will this scale, especially if you're a big provider? Will it be able to handle however many cases, documents, claims, whatever it is that you're throwing at the AI? Can it handle the volume? And does it actually need a lot of manual effort to maintain that system? So I think from like a business perspective, those are maybe the main questions. But I would say just from a me being a more technical person, I'm interested in knowing, especially for anything that has a large language model behind it, how does it handle uncertainty? Are there any exceptions? Do you have guardrails that maybe certain complex scenarios would be sent to humans? Or does your AI just try to solve everything and in true LLM fashion just give you a very confident sounding answer when the math isn't there to really show that it is very accurate in all scenarios? So if you don't have a guardrail in place, that can be pretty, say, dangerous, but less than optimal. And then will it learn over time? Is there a feedback system? Is there any sort of manual auditing going on in the background? Or will you now get stuck with a product that did really well at the beginning and sort of like pilot state, but it's just not going to adjust as your data adjusts, as payers change their behavior and such?
Right, right. Well, it's excellent stuff. I mean, that's all the questions I have for you. Now we do have a few more minutes, so we'll turn it over to the audience to ask any questions. Okay, I see two here. Looks like a pretty good question. So we have legacy systems and fragmented data. Like, who doesn't? I make the joke sometimes, hey, the 90s called, they want their UI back, right? So
Mhm.
and it's very old stuff. And it goes on, which feels very common in healthcare. Yes. So does that mean AI is something organizations should wait on, or are there responsible ways to move forward even if everything isn't perfectly aligned?
It's a good question. I think somewhere where many people would find themselves in that sort of situation. Mentioned that a solution isn't necessarily going to work for your scenario right off the bat. Not like 100%, maybe not even 90% or 80% accurate, being accuracy meaning your end goal. But you can be intentional about what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you're building for your specific use case, right? So is there a system that can provide some value for you now? Maybe standardize some work, reduce some manual steps, become more efficient in any aspect of your work, and then also just be set up to learn. Like, does it have that feedback loop built in? Can it be capturing data and improving for your specific system, right? So fragmented data, but can you feed the data? Can we figure out some sort of integration that it can be capturing data as it's providing some value? Can you include some human feedback in the process? Maybe not forever, right? Not permanently, as far as like a high touch sort of system, but will that lead you then to getting this high quality data and high quality outputs that would be key in making the system work for you? So I think start off with small wins that can lead to a very efficient system that would provide a lot of value for your situation if it's built correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Those small wins, get successful, make something positive, and then build on that momentum. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
The second question here is, how should leaders think about measuring success early on, especially when AI improvements may be incremental rather than transformational?
Yeah. So it's a good question as well. And understanding what the value is, that really depends on what solution you're looking for. But there are a lot of different ways of providing business value using AI. And perhaps you don't start looking at payments or denials because those may take a while to show up in your system, right? So you have some AI tool and you're saying 2 weeks later, okay, we're not seeing denial reduction. Okay, fine, but the payers actually haven't been adjudicating whatever claims that you've been working on with this AI system. So think of like leading indicators. Then are you having any reduction in manual effort? As preferably measurable reduction. So are you measuring that? Are you having fewer items maybe that require rework? Are you reducing errors? Are you moving work through more efficiently or more consistently? Like those kinds of indicators can show you that the AI is proving to be useful in your business. And then later on, as time passes, you can see it. Are you flagging denials? Are you reducing denials? Are you increasing payments? Anything that requires a payer's response, especially on the billing side, those you might need to measure a couple of months down the line. But then you might also just want to see, especially if you have this kind of like feedback loop built in, is your system getting better? So is what you're getting out of the AI improving over time?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we actually have one more question.
Mm.
So it's in order for AI to work efficiently, do the clinic notes have to be perfect with names of tests, etc., in order for it to auth without help of an Infinix rep?
What was the last part?
In order for it to auth or maybe do a prior
Oh, okay.
authorization without help of an Infinix rep.
I mean, I would say you would need to make sure that all the data that you need to make that to complete that auth process is available in your notes or whatever you're feeding into an AI system. It's not going to guess. I think, especially if you're thinking of guardrails, do you want AI to just be coming up with codes, procedures, diagnoses for you? Probably not, because in the end, you need to provide evidence to your payers. So the notes don't have to be perfect, but they need to have all of the relevant information in them.
Mm-hmm. And AI needs to understand it all, which goes back
Mm-hmm.
to the training, the updating
Mm-hmm.
of the AI. So as long as and it doesn't drift. So everything you just talked about really kind of ties into this question. That's why I like this question because it really kind of speaks to, well, hey, this AI, do we have to have everything perfect so it just understands like a 5-year-old, right? Which sometimes you have to talk to AI like a 5-year-old.
I mean, it knows a lot more than a 5-year-old.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I hope that answered your questions. If not, you can give us additional feedback. You can also, visit us on our website at infinix.com. We have case studies, articles, solutions, even past office hours you can watch on demand. There are hundreds and hundreds of office hours. Natalia's done a few, so you can go back and see how things have evolved since the last time she spoke. So Natalia, really appreciate you coming on board for today. As always, you'll be a frequent guest, not as frequent as some others, because I know you're busy, but we'll have you back on as well again sometime in the future. But it's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you. Said I'm always happy to talk about this kind of stuff. Sometimes talk about it too much. So
Oh,
you're
that's
giving
all
me
right.
an outlet. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah. And so I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. And again, catch us next time. But we really appreciate you taking the time to join us as well. So we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to get notified when our next episode is online. For more information for how we can help you increase reimbursements at your company, check out our website at infinx.com. That's INFINX.com.